welcome back. Well, the coordinating minister of the economy, Mr. Wale Edun, has attributed the Naira's continued decline to an overdue forward payment of $6.8 billion in the foreign exchange market. Mr. Edun clarified that if authorities could resolve these unpaid contracts, it will help the Naira become stronger and make way for additional foreign exchange flows. The Naira has been rapidly losing its value for several months now, mostly due to persistent scarce supply of the dollar amid declining forex inflow to the country. Well, we do have an individual who thinks that while a lot of people are not happy with the rate or the status of the Naira, he thinks it's not a major problem. He joins us in the studio. Thank God we have him in the studio, so if we don't agree with him, we can easily hold him. Mr. Femi Onokare, he's the Managing Director of North Ananke Solutions Limited. He's an economist and Policy and Technology Solutions Specialist. Good to have you in the studio, Mr. Naira.
Pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Well, I'm so interested in this conversation because as at last week, 1,000 Naira was equal to $1, and then it's retreated a bit, but still within that. I think even this morning it's still back.
Yes.
And you don't see that as a challenge?
I believe that if we focus on the problem, we may not be looking for a solution. And over the time, the FX market in the country has become notorious, and a lot of interest in it is not born out of informed position, which would have helped to create a solution. So in the first place, I am not against the Naira being 1,000 to $1. That's not a problem, because the value of your currency depicts the value of your economy. If the economy is not robust enough, then you are just accommodating and subsidizing consumption. That's all you're doing. Now, in our event, a series of stuff have come together to put us in this situation. Like Mr. Wale Edun said, the outstanding payment for the forward contract, and a lot of people may not understand what a forward contract is. It's an agreed payment, right, at a value, future date for redemption. Now, once that is done, you've given value, say, okay, I'll get it, my payment later. When I want my payment, I should have it. Unfortunately, if the exchange rate has changed, then the value has appreciated more, what I'm supposed to pay. So if it actually goes lower, it's in the interest of the, it favors us, but it goes higher. So CBN now has to pay up what is due. Now, it also has a lot of other constraints along with this.
And also, even the banks now, CBN is owing the banks because of this same change in value.
It's the same, yes.
It's the same forwards.
So the disparity, the FX disparity over time has created an issue. But it's not alone as a culprit for the problem we have. We have operated a budget deficit for close on a decade now. And this has accumulated over time. Budget deficits are essentially the government spending more than its revenue. So you have to make do with it. Between 2016 and 2023, we've had about 270% increase, right, in terms of our deficit profile. Now, if the government wants to show up, because you're not making enough money. Last year, we used 96.3% of our earnings to service debts. So if you're not earning enough, you have to get money to stimulate the economy. You have two options, right? It's either you borrow
and increase your debt servicing, which is already at 100%.
Or you print cash.
And then increase inflation.
So now, in the first instance, right, when you borrow, you create depreciation because you have increased demand for foreign currency against yours. If you print more cash, you create devaluation because you have too much money around. We have been in that circle. Those two issues are on ground. Nigeria, suffering a depreciation and a devaluation. This puts us all in a mess regarding fiscal policy application, because whatever you're planning, if inflation is always going to be dragging you down, people won't see the effect. In fact, when MPC comes together and bring the new MPR, everyone's going to be like, oh, rates have changed, but manufacturers can feel the value, right? Because those two things are in place. And you look at it from our balance of trade. How do we source FX, right? CBN collects FX on behalf of the federal government. And when CBN gets this inflow, they give to banks and all that, but it's insufficient. It can only become sufficient if we are earning in FX. How do we earn in FX? Export. So there's this balance of trade conundrum that we found ourselves in. There's a Marshall-Lerner condition that says that in an elastic demand and supply situation, if your exports increases, right, the value of your currency would appreciate.
So we do have a challenge. We do have a challenge because we have not been able to export as much as we should to show up the value of the Naira. That's why.
But the problem is not that value. The focus has been on the value. It's 1,000 Naira. It's 900 Naira. That's not the problem. The problem is how do you resolve? How did you get into this mess in the first place? Right. There's nothing wrong with a budget deficit. It's usually expansionary. You want to increase government spending, right, in order to stimulate productivity. And by stimulating productivity, one of the things you're expected to do is local consumption is taken care of, and then you have excess for export, which means you earn forex, and then you can now bring that back. It also makes sense, right, why you would also do a forward agreement. However, if in that intervening period, you have not grown your productivity significantly to manage the situation, and there can be extraneous circumstances, like we had COVID and, all the rest, our security issue, and there can be extraneous circumstances. But if you have not grown it, it is inevitable that your currency will continue to depreciate and get devalued. It's inevitable.
I saw an article and somebody said that, the situation is even worse than this. This is forward for FX. We heard about the one with crude.
So,
and other resources that have been whatever, even the crude that we have not produced out of the ground is no longer
That's exactly
ours.
what forward.
Minerals.
Yeah, exactly.
The FX we have not even earned is already not ours. So we're in a worse situation. So
it's not really. It's about proper management, and this is where the ingenuity of Mr. Wale Edun and Mr. Cardoso will come into play. Right? It's just about proper management. One of the first things you need to do right now is to restore some confidence in the market. Some of these forwards, our reserves, right, is about 33 billion. Recent studies show that we have adequate debt to reserve, ratio. We can run it off, pay them off.
Don't forget, we still have JP Morgan. We still have JP Morgan and the CBN.
Hold on. Pay them off, right? And then create a policy. Yes, we can. Now, this is like I said, it's about the ingenuity of the managers of the economy.
Okay.
Right. So if you pay them off, right, instantly there'll be a depression in the market, because these are some of the things that is driving high demand for USD. So pay them off. Create a structure that on maturity of obligations, you will pay. It's almost automated or deferred within a particular time frame. Put that in place. Create investor confidence. Right? They know that if they come do business here, I can repatriate my money, I can get my money if we have an agreement. So that's down, right? Then you look at your BDC. Most of the things that's happening in the country, everybody has become a speculator of FX. What it does is people will get at official rate the iron market, and we're trying to harmonize. Then they'll just walk out of wherever they are, and then they sell it at black market and make a tidy profit. In that period, there's been no productivity, no addition to the economy, nothing of value created. Of course, your currency will continue to plunge. There's no way you can manage that. So put structures in place for BDCs.
The BDCs are even asking for that themselves.
You need structure, because otherwise we are always going to be in the mess. Remember, we're not earning enough. Our revenue, right, the budget for 2023, 20-point-something trillion. About 10 million out of it is deficit. It means we're going to have to look for it for something, because our projected revenue is about 9.7 trillion, right? So how are we going to show it? There's no way that we're not going to, but it is the judicious use of what you are. So if you borrow money and it is seen that you're implementing an infrastructure building, right? If it's seen that you're building infrastructure, yes, projecting towards productivity, you're providing
Mr. Naira. We have the Trade Union Congress. They're protesting today, and our correspondent has been on ground with them. We'll let's just see what's going on ground there, that protest. by the trade union. If we could have the visuals to show our viewers there. So, and that's the president. Let's listen to him for a bit.
Elected them. They should know that they were elected by us. They should know that we place them in where they are today. They cannot be bigger than us. We must compel them to do what is right. We must compel them to follow the path of law. We must compel them to follow the path of rule of law. So that is actually why we are here today. And we shall progress for Alausa to deliver the same message emphatically to them. That for us, injury to one is an injury to all. If they don't yield to our clarion call, we will take it a step higher. Because clearly at the end of the day, for us, if you contend with one, you will contend with all. If you fight with one, you will fight with all. We will all come out with everything that we have to say it is a no, no, no. Yes, solidarity! Forever. Solidarity! Forever. Solidarity! Forever. Moving train, no stopping! Moving train, no stopping! Moving train, no stopping! Injury to one, injury to all! Solidarity! Solidarity forever!
I don't know if you can hear me. That's the president who just delivered the speech and pretty much cleared the air and explained why they are embarking on this particular protest. Of course, there's a whole lot that we can tell you at this moment. Although the Lagos state government has also reacted, they said this protest is not needed. By the time we get to Alausa, because right now there's a whole lot of movement, we're going to pose that question to the leadership of the TUC to pretty much explain to us, because again, if there's a conflict, if they've explored all the conflict resolution options, and why this protest, because they said they are going for a total shutdown after this particular protest in
Sure, subsequently, we would remember that the Trade Union Congress, the national body, have come to protest the disruption in the operations of the road transport employers in Lagos. They were banned last year in the midst of a whole lot of controversy and, a new arm created from Abuja and all of that. So that's what they are protesting, that their members have been banned from operating in Lagos State since last year, and they do not want that to hold anymore. We hope to get more from Dare. If we cannot get him back here on Business Morning, we'll certainly get him back on News Track and our subsequent programs. Right here on Channels Television, what we do is keep you on top of the news. That's just what we are here for. So we had to take that live feed to update you while we're having a conversation on another very important issue, with the issue of the value of the Naira and apprehension around FX shortage. We have with us in the studio the Managing Director of Nosananke Solutions Limited. He's an economist, a policy and technology solutions specialist, Mr. Femi Onakero. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so I don't know, can you pick up your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, so you asked the question that do we have adequacy in terms of settling this particular debt? First, you need to clear that out.
Can we afford it?
We can.
Can we afford that our reserve is left empty?
No, our reserve will not be. That's another misconception. Our reserve will not be empty. Okay. That's one. Then another thing we should understand, there are several engineering ways that you can create value. Nigeria recently paid up 500 million euro bond, right? And we paid it off. It was set over a period of time. It means that we are not in any encumbrance, as it were. We can create other bonds to shore up our reserve in terms of inflows to assist, this thing. But the reserve is not so poor that it cannot pay off. You need investors to be confident, to come in, to put in their money and be sure that they can take their monies out.
Yeah, but when they see the reserve almost empty, that is going to also affect investor sentiment. They're going to be like, this country does not have a foundation, they don't have a backup. If anything happens, I lose out.
That's not necessarily true. So some of the guys who borrow us money, right, they are also aware that the potential within the economy. And that's what they are betting against. That's one of the things that the reserve does for us, but that's also one of the things that they are betting on, that, okay, you have the ability to pay up. One of the things that's affected us significantly is we had a projection of 1.69 million barrels per day or something like that for production, crude oil production.
1.8?
Yeah,
1.6 for the budget, yeah. 1.8 from OPEC.
Yeah, OPEC. And I mean, we were supposed to be safe within that enclave, but somehow we've not been able to do up to 1.5, 1.4.
Can't remember the last time we did that.
So that affects your inflow. So we need to sort out the security, right, issue in that respect. In another regard, in terms of, we say we want to increase export. The easiest export we can actually do is what we have in terms of agriculture and all that. And the government has indicated
oil, because if you want to export agriculture, you have to plant and wait for it to grow. But if we can just deal with the insecurity around our oil production, that could easily just boost within a month or two.
Our dependence on oil is one of the reasons we've been here. That's why we have always been so concerned about FX rate. We need to, as we're exploring diversifying the economy, we need to start shoring up those areas. The previous administration invested quite a bit in agriculture, the rice paddies and the rest of them. This current administration is saying the same thing, right? But then there's a question of security for that one as well. Because who's going to go to farm, right, if there's no one there? There's a program that we have in the country, Forest Rangers, I think. I think something like that needs to be revamped and given some kind of attention, so that people, if you pump money in, let them be sure that they are safe when they're going to the farms. That will increase immediately your export positions, right? That reduces the pressure you have on oil. You understand what I mean? Our oil production security outfit they need to do well. They need to do much better than they're doing. You can't continue saying that there's oil theft. Who is stealing it? Across where? It's not disappearing. It's not like Yoruba people will say that, you just put some juju on it and then it just goes. It must go through a particular route. How is that done? We need to up our game in that. That's why I say for us, it's not really so much that the value is 1,000 Naira to the dollar. It is, what are you going to do to have the Naira reflect its true value and be competitive?
Because at this point, the true value is reflecting, shows that
exactly.
there's not much of a value.
It's going to continue deteriorating. You have people who are actively speculating against the Naira. And the reason they will do it is very simple. So CBN panics, federal government panics, and then they put in money, but it's not sustainable. There's no plan. So once they pump the money in, people will wait. It will drop a little. Yeah, they'll mop it up.
The announcement with Afrexim Bank, that's what we saw for a couple of days.
After they mop it up, everybody now sits down and wait when is the next inflow.
What do you think about this idea? I think 2 weeks ago, it was really out there, rebasing the Naira, redenomination of the Naira.
I think that is a silly notion. It's like putting plaster over a festering wound. You need to get it treated. If you're not getting treatment for the wound, you're only prolonging the day of misery. Ghana tried it.
Ghana is in trouble now.
They're in trouble. So they rebased their currency.
Just how many years after they
they removed it, but the fundamentals were wrong. You would have false confidence. You know the funny thing about the Ghanaian situation, and that is what a lot of people don't understand. People can now be saying, okay, one cedi is $1, or the Nigerians can say 1 Naira is now $1. Hey, we've removed it. But the intrinsic value has not changed. It's just cosmetic. The intrinsic value of the Naira, if it is 1,000 Naira to $1, that is what it actually is. That's what the purchasing power of that currency is. I know you were telling me
something before we came on air, how, we say maybe a cedi is $1, but can you really feed? Can you make a pot of soup? But in Nigeria, you can actually eat to an extent.
Yes. So
some level 500 Naira.
That's what we're talking about. The problem of arbitrage in our FX market and the obsession with FX position has created a delusional, perspective in terms of what is our true situation. You can feed well in Nigeria, at least in Lagos State. Let me not speak too far. You can go to Oshodi, right, and you can have a meal for 500 Naira. Decent meal. Rice, beans, nice stew, some protein and all. 500 Naira. That's less than $1. You cannot do that in America. You can't have that level of a meal with less than $1 in America. Whatever the subvention the country is giving, what's called. So it shows that we have created an inordinate reliance on things that are not important, which is why we are focused and obsessed with FX. For example, our manufacturing power. Their biggest issue is importation of equipment. Why can't we make those equipments here? Why can't we woo the creators, the manufacturers, the OEMs, come here, we'll give you such and such tax rebates, come and do it here, so we don't have to import, then we can produce for local consumption and also have the opportunity of exporting value-added goods.
I guess that's what the president has promised us from his trip in India. $40 billion.
We're watching closely.
India.
We hope it comes to fruition.
We do hope so too. We're counting down. I remember I spoke to the spokesperson of the president, Mr. Ajurin Gilali, and I think he gave about 2-3 months. We should be seeing signs that those companies are coming to come and start working here.
We want them to show signs, but really we don't want just signs, because signs can be very misleading.
2-3 months, if we see that, there's a company that is coming up here as from the Indian trip, we see another one coming up here is from the Indian trip, then then we know that something will most likely happen.
We hope it works out.
All right, thank you so much. Managing Director, Nosananke Solutions Limited, Economist, Policy and Technology Solutions Specialist, Mr. Femi Onokore. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you.
All righty, let's take a break now. When we come back, Business Morning is still on. We'll talk about gas. We can't seem to run away from gas these days. It's everywhere. Find out the new perspective after the break. Welcome back to Watching Business Morning here on Channels Television. The Special Advisor on Energy to President Bola Tinubu, Mr. Olu Vehejan, has disclosed that Nigeria has successfully attracted a total of $13 billion in investment commitment into its oil and gas sector from major international energy companies. On the other hand, we also have that the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has announced that it had granted an approval to construct NOD of 500 metric tons of liquefied petroleum gas in Abuja recently, and the authority stated that the move will not only boost the much needed gas, but also affect employment in the country. So does it mean that we are doing well? Can we relax at least for gas? Can we say we're on the right track? Well, Engineer Thank God Egbe is a Technical Director, Chief Executive Officer of Cypher Crescent Limited, joins us now. Engineer Thank God also earned recognition as one of Nigeria's top 100 innovative CEOs by The Guardian in 2019. So we expect to get some really innovative, creative ideas concerning our gas and how to use it this morning. Thank you so much for your time, Engineer Egbe.
Thank you, Ini. Thank you for having me.
So my mind is open. I think it's time to get some innovation, because we're just talking about gas. And even before we settle down into gas, we see the price surging, on like every front. The good thing is conversion of either your car or generator. We've seen that crash now. We hope it stays that way. But the gas itself is now becoming a scarce commodity. It seems demand is catching up on it.
Yes, not really. If you look at Nigeria, we are called more like a gas country with pockets of oil, though we make most of our foreign exchange from oil. So we need to be very deliberate about gas. So basically, once the whole policies, we have really very exciting about 10 days ago, when some companies were given the license to actually monetize gas from flare sites and so on. So we have enough gas. We just have to be deliberate to accept gas as our transition fuel, and even a mainstay for the fuel to actually move. So we have enough gas with over 200 TCF of gas we have, and there's no deliberate exploration for gas. This has been like that for the past 5 to 7 years, about the same figure, hovering around 200 for the past 5 to 7 years. So I think we have enough gas. It's just for us to put up a technology, to put up a business model that we use to monetize that gas.
So are you comfortable with all of these moves? Everybody's talking about gas now. We've talked how we've attracted investments into the area. The regulatory authority, NMDPRA is saying that, well, they've approved the construction. So are we on the right track? Can we say, yes, we have started this gas journey?
Yes, I would say from my perspective, yes. I observe it from a technology and innovation perspective, and also from a business model perspective. I really like what is happening. I'm seeing the government actually adopting a pentahelix development model for gas, where entrepreneurs are actually brought in to support the E&P companies who are struggling to actually manage the gas and keep flaring the gas. You see companies flaring sometimes above 20, 30, 50 million scf of gas. That's a huge amount of gas being flared. It's the right move that the government did to actually monetize that gas. And of course, if you look at the whole pentahelix model, we start looking at entrepreneurs coming in. Of course, there's some investors. Basically, what's left now is basically bringing in investors to complete that move. And they also have some innovation companies like ourselves being around to help the companies, to help people around with business model, with technology they need to actually look at it. So I see a complete ecosystem. If we give them some time, the next 1 or 2 years, I see a drastic change in terms of how much gas that we use and how we utilize our gas, and also reduction in the amount of gas that we flare. So I see that approach. It is actually a very deliberate approach, and if we follow it deliberately, we'll be able to get that.
Yeah, so, when we hear investors coming, sometimes we forget that these investors are actually here to make profits. So if you are not careful and deliberate, in your interaction and transaction, you could actually, as a country, lose out, which is what has been happening with our solid minerals and all of that. So what innovations, I mean, you one CEO, innovative CEO, what innovations can we introduce into the gas space with this investment and attention that it's getting to ensure that Nigeria is actually safe and benefiting from this investment and not just giving out its resources?
Okay, so I'll look at it from innovation from two perspectives, business model innovation and also technology innovation. But most importantly is basically business model innovation. We start looking at gas, how basically the different value chain from LPG to CNG to LNG and all those things are basically to look at what business model do I need to actually monetize that gas? What market do I have? What infrastructure do I have around that? So if we put all those in perspective, that's where technology comes in. That's where innovation comes in. As a country, do we have a digitalized framework to understand the infrastructure that we have? Because for basically to get value from gas, there are three elements. First of all, the source of gas. We have enough amount of gas. Secondly, the infrastructure. And then, of course, lastly, the market. The market is there. And then the source is there. Once we're able to get that infrastructure, so the whole business model we want to look at is innovation around the business model, around the infrastructure. What infrastructure what optimization will I do to plug the source of gas, leveraging the existing infrastructure, or a very quick infrastructure I need to do to actually get to the market. And of course, for technology, a part of it is basically where we come in to start looking at what does the market need. We seem to go for LPG. How then do I use technology to actually optimize the gas value chain to get more LPG? And so it's basically employing technology and business model to actually drive that and so on. So and that's basically what we are doing. We see a lot of companies doing that, even LNG too. We want to look at a lot of persons actually doing around the whole LNG value chain.
So talking about utilization of gas, we, of course, with this conversation, it sometimes sounds like it's for the elite or for the high earners, the bigger companies. Is there a way to make it trickle down to small businesses so that they can also be a part of this gas value chain?
I think it's been done. If you look at the recent award for 42 companies giving 49 flex sites, those are small companies. Those are entrepreneurs. Those are people who are very creative that can actually monetize that. They're not big companies. They are smaller companies. So the challenge they will have is basically the investment. But most of them are actually partnering with investors to actually get money to look at that. So basically, they move through the whole Nigerian gas fertilization program is basically to take the gas and bring the smaller companies in. I'm just discussing now from the upstream perspective. Of course, from the downstream perspective, the problem is distribution. Technology. People are also developing technology to actually distribute, monitor, receive some big companies and small companies developing technology to help in terms of gas markets, to search for gas and distribute gas. And so the recent program of using that pentahelix model is bringing in small companies, small entrepreneurs to come into that ecosystem to help the bigger companies innovate in business model, innovate in technology. Of course, even in infrastructure to actually monetize gas. So I think basically the move by the government of giving those sites to those companies. Some of them are smaller companies, some of them are actually big companies, some of them are really unknown companies too, who are actually not, who are only innovative in technology and are able to capture and get those sites.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to give them time to spread. But still talking about utilization and in the households now, we're talking of how to get more Nigerians to embrace gas, their vehicles, even electricity. How would you say we're doing in that respect? Do we need more education? Are we good with where we are, the adoption of it?
For household around the urban centers, they are good. Well, we say we are good, but of course, the infrastructure, the cylinders, the safety of the company is looking at composite cylinders for safety to track technology, track that. So for the household, we are good, but for the cars, the safety concerns, a lot of persons are actually not comfortable with using CNG in their cars because, of course, once you retrofit. But once we start being deliberate to import cars, to manufacture cars in the country, where, of course, Innocent is doing a very good job. We're excited to hear a couple of months ago when they commissioned the CNG, their CNG gas-fired vehicles. And so once it comes in factory-fitted, people will be comfortable, and there need to be a lot of sensitization on safety. These things are on safety. So once that is done, you see that in terms of economics, people know that, of course, gas is more economical, it's cheaper than oil, but enough sensitization needs to be done to actually encourage people to move towards using gas for cars. And then for homes, we need to get more cylinders. We need to innovate on the business model so that people don't struggle. People don't struggle for gas. I can use my app, use your app to order gas, and then people can refill it. It's being done. We work with a company in South Africa where they basically use technology to digitalize the whole gas value chain in terms of LPG. You can sit down in my house and monitor how much gas I've used and what time do I need to actually replenish that. And then a vendor will bring that to replace that, even if the gas is not done. So that's the technology that we're seeing. And of course, a couple of companies in Nigeria are actually innovating in that area. So I think we need more sensitization and also need to bring in technology to actually drive this like from an e-commerce perspective.
Yeah, well, and I believe that if investors see that it's a beneficial project, a lot of Nigerian and even international investors will tour that path. But thank you so much, Engineer Thank God Egbe, Technical Director, Chief Executive Officer of Cypher Crescent Limited.
All right, thank you, Ini. Thank you. All right, thank you all.
All right, now let's move to the market. Just reminding you that our correspondent Naira is still on the streets going with the Trade Union Congress, heading to Alausa, Lagos. And they are protesting the ban on their members, the road transport employers in Lagos State. The ban has been on since last year. We'll subsequently bring you back. We had Ajari earlier as well as the TUC president. But of course, subsequent broadcasts here in Channels Television will give you updates of what's going on there. You just have to stick with us. For now, let's head to the market and see what's going on, or what went down last week. I guess that would be it. But last week, income will evolve. Last week last week ended on a sour note.
Yes, very bloody.
Yes,
sad you had to report that. But
very sad. My heart was broken, but I just had to.
We did see that just 6% buy interest on the NGX. That's when you look at the market sentiments. It was, and then we had that's 4% buy interest, and sell percent was 96. So that was a lot.
Yeah,
that was a lot of sell-offs
really,
last week.
Are we not done? Are we not done with school fees?
No. You see your parents saying that they're paying school fees. So a lot of people are taking profit from the market. And this is one of the major things in September where parents and, guardians deploy their resources to. So,
all right, I'll just beg you to hold your thoughts for a moment. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be back. Let's just take a quick break. Will is still here. Don't worry, you're not going to miss anything. She'll be here. Welcome back. It's Will's time now.
Last week, we were just talking with Ini. It was quite bloody for the NGX, but we're going to see how it went down for the FX market. We did see that FX markets, the reserves, it closed flat. It's still at $33.28 billion at last week. But we look at what happened at the FMDQ exchange. We did see that uptick as well. That uptrend, I think, is flowing from the FX reserves in the positive close. We did see that 127.52% uptick for total transactions at the FMDQ exchange. And that's due to the gains in the FX spot market. That's the I&E window, which was up 128.54% yesterday. On Friday to close at $635.13 million. Now, look at the forwards market. It was also up 190.48% to $7.93 million. Now, highlights also show that, transactions there, we did see that dip for the OTC, the over-the-counter FX futures, down over 100%, and nothing going on for the exchange-traded futures. But we did see that, however, FX derivatives was up in last week's trading session. $67.65 to $7.93 million. Now, if we look at the fixed income space, we did see bearish sentiments continuing for both bonds and the treasury bills market. That means yields are still trending upwards. We're going to bring in Tobechukwu Ikpe. He's a FX dealer with Access Bank to tell us more. We don't have Tobechukwu at the moment. Well, we just see what's going on in the market still. I&E window, I did mention that it was up in the last week's transaction, 128.54%, and we've seen the NAFEX rate, however, it dipped. We did see this downtrend, 0.37%. The Naira escape, floating downwards, going south for exchanges right now. We're seeing that 771 Naira, 14 kobo to a dollar, the NAFEX window. We're not talking about the parallel markets here. Now, I think we have Tobechukwu back with us now. Tobechukwu Ikpe is an FX dealer with Access Bank to give us more details on what happened last week. Tobe, it's good to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Will.
Tobechukwu, we did see that mild accretion in the FX reserves, but exchange rate is still moving south. Dollar is nearing 1,000. The parallel market, we did see the NAFEX window still 771 Naira. Where are we at? Especially we're hearing news about CBN still defaulting on the $10 billion repayment to banks. How is this going on for the banking sector? How is this going on for the markets in general?
Well, the question is a loaded one. First of all, the $10 billion repayment to banks that I spoke about, it consists of both FX forwards and swap contracts that the CBN has executed with banks. So the current finance minister, Wale Edun, said that settling a portion of that, which is about $6.8 billion, which amounts to the total amount of FX forwards that the CBN is currently owing to banks, would help in fortifying the value of the Naira. So currently the CBN has sold forwards to the deposit money banks to the tune of 6.8 billion that they are yet to deliver the actual liquidity. So the government has been working on that, which is why I assume that they need to put a substantive CBN management in place. As you saw last Friday, they resumed office, they took the out of office and started in acting capacity pending their confirmation. So they are already working on plans in conjunction with the banks to settle those backlogs and help with the Naira value. A lot of depreciation is due to the demand for FX. You have the importers that are looking to pay their offshore suppliers. You have the investors with investment proceeds here that are looking to repatriate their proceeds. Also, we have the inflation also affecting the value of the Naira. So some people prefer to save their money in for other currencies. Then we also have speculators too. There always be those players in the market that are speculating against the naira. So there are different forces that are driving the value of the naira downwards.
So now we're seeing this new CBN governor, that's Yemi Cardoso, assuming office, assuming duties right now. It has a lot of work to do. But any expectations from him, from the fixed income market?
Well, the expectations for me, first of all, we expect that the synergy between the monetary and fiscal side will be much improved. The current CBN governor was a former commissioner in Lagos State during the current president's administration while he was governor of Lagos State. So we expect that handshake between the fiscal side and the monetary side to be well coordinated. But in terms of market expectations, he has a lot of challenges as he resumes office today. The FX is in downward spiral, inflation is at 25.8%. So he has to tackle those issues head on. What the market will expect from him is clear communication on how we address those challenges. Well, some market participants expect him to also go on a roadshow, start to talk to market participants, investors, both onshore and offshore, on what his plans are. So not much is known in terms of his plans, but we expect him to come out with communication on that, most likely by the end of this week or next week, where they will announce the new date for the MPC meeting. We expect to see him unveil new strategies and plans that will address the challenges in the current market regarding FX inflation.
Thank you so much, Tobechukwu. While we wait for the MPC meeting and see how the new CBN governor is going to tackle these FX challenges and the policies that they're going to make, we'll hope that the market continues to maybe give us some hope in some ways, see some positive sentiment returning there. Thank you so much, Tobechukwu Ikpe, FX dealer, Access Bank.
Thank you.
So, that's what we have for the markets for last week. We do hope that the negative sentiment doesn't trickle into this week.
That'll be your cross.
Well, you just have to make sure that I don't carry it.
That'll be your cross, Will. All right, thank you. See you at 1:30. All right, now let's go to the other market, which is the crypto market that we report here on Business Morning, and see how sentiments are looking there. And there we see a lot of red on the crypto market, unfortunately. But I guess not new. It's what we've been seeing these days, and that's what Will just talked about for the equities market. The Bitcoin is now down almost 2% in 24 hours at $26,079.46. Ethereum is also down at 1.2%. That's about $1,574.81. And the sentiment generally we can see is red. Let's see the index there. It's neutral. Well, it looks like an improvement from fair at 47. But obviously investors still have a load of factors to consider. Let's look at the numbers right there before we can get to Lumida Additional to join us. Bitcoin there, we had that, and we also had for Ethereum. BNB is down almost 1%. Cardano is down. XRP, but I mean, you'll be surprised that conversation XRP is being part of, even though it's down 2.37% as of this morning. You know the way the crypto market is. Anything can happen. Just one information and things can turn around. Let's see the next top gainers for this morning, if we could have that. Okay, all right, I believe we have Olumide now. Hi, Olumide, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, Olumide. We see the numbers. We see those numbers, favorites, the top coins. We see them there in the red. And yet there's this conversation of which of the cryptocurrency will hit $1 first. And XRP, which we saw, was down 2.3%, more than 2.3%, is also part of it. Some communities think that it will be among the first, along with Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, to hit $1 first. Any positive sentiment coming through the market?
Yeah, so if you look at those meme coins you highlighted, particularly Doge and Shiba Inu, you should understand that apart from the fact that they have little utility, they have a strong community, and that's really what has pushed these assets to, at some point, record high some years ago. But XRP definitely has a better fundamentals, used in payments, is seen as a rival to Swift, what we see in banks and transaction. And the fact that it's a utility asset, it's not surprising that it's the fifth most valuable crypto asset. But the trick is that, Dogecoin has an affinity with the world's richest man, Elon Musk. So usually when Elon Musk makes comment about it or narrative across the meme space, we see upside. So while Dogecoin has inflationary fundamentals because its circulation is unlimited, the amount of coins produced unlimited, I think longer term the bet should be on XRP. But looking at the market right now, I think the US dollar is really weighing down. You see the US dollar against major currencies, and that was because of the hawkish narrative, despite the pause in rates, and has made it somehow a quiet September, continuation of an honorable month of August. So I think the outlook is that bulls are waiting if Bitcoin can hold above the $25,000 mark, and projection will be to see if it can stay the 28,000 resistance level once again.
All right, Olumide Adesina, thank you so much. Well, investors here, but obviously the wise thing would be for you to get your own advisor and consultancy if you want to get into any of this. But thank you so much, Olumide Adesina, for sharing your observations with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's where we draw the curtains on Business Morning this Monday. Yes, it is a beautiful Monday. And we've come to the end of 55 minutes of relevant and current business conversations. Let's do it again tomorrow. Will Ibong will be back at 1:30 to give you update from the world of business. You can watch Business Morning anytime you want on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channelsweb. You can watch it and get all the information. I'm Ini Janmakwa. Have a great day.